Amazon is planning to produce a lot of Christian faith-based content on their platform. They just signed a deal with a Christian media company called The Wonder Project that is run by one of the directors of Jesus Revolution. A lot of you guys said that we should watch that. I never got around to watching that, but you seem to like it. And also a former Netflix and YouTube executive, and her name is Kelly Merriman Hoog Stratton. I just thought I needed to mention that.
Hoog Stratton. Shoogie.
Yeah.
Very shoogie name.
So I am worried about this, sort of, because faith-based films have a bad reputation, but maybe having the backing of a mainstream studio will help counteract that.
I think it's probably
make it more palatable to mainstream audiences.
It's gonna be the same thing as we were just talking about with the movies earlier. It's like if they're gonna focus on the faith-based part as opposed to focus on the story, it's gonna come out bad. If they focus on the story, it'll come out.
This could use some Mel Gibson.
And with this announcement, they said there's a new series they're working on called House of David that will dramatize the rise to power of King David of Israel. No release date or cast has been announced for that series, though, and that's the only thing they've announced so far.
You can't get Mel Gibson, but you can get voicemails from Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Oh, and also one of the Wonder Project's advisors is the creator of The Chosen. So I feel like what we have to expect is biblical stories, right?
Yep.
Adapted into film. That's not really, real life stories that involve faith but are not completely centered around it,
Yeah, like there's I feel like there's a market for it. Even somebody like me who doesn't necessarily seek these movies out. There was a movie called The Hill this year about this baseball player with a handicap who made it to the minor leagues, and I really, really enjoyed that. And there was an undercurrent, there was a secondary storyline of faith because of his family in that movie, and it was made by a small studio. And a lot of people found that movie forgettable, but I really, really enjoyed it. So
I think that there's probably a significant market for things that are not overly cynical. I think that there's people out there that are just like, I want some lighthearted stuff to watch that isn't going to make me miserable. And I think that there's an overproduction of cynical stuff because, my generation, Gen X and millennials and stuff, they're a fairly cynical generation,
Yeah, like everyone has been asking for rom-coms lately, and Hollywood just refuses to make good rom-coms. Or they're in very short supply, but people love the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah.
And they love Great American Family because it's just like a stupid, superficial, surface level movie about a love story.
Yeah,
that doesn't need to be that deep. It doesn't need to have some nihilistic message behind it. It doesn't need to be political.
This just occurred to me, like the people that go into making movies and stuff, they're artists, and that means that they tend to have artist brains, and so they tend to be pretentious and have full of themselves and stuff like that. And that honestly, look, I have spent plenty of time around artists, and that is absolutely true. They do tend to be pretentious and tend to be full of themselves and tend to think very highly of their opinions. And so,
but can they put their pretentiousness aside in order to make money?
Well, I mean,
can they do that?
I'm sure that there are some that can. The question is, will the producers and the people that actually make the movies, will they hire the people that are like, yo, I'm just going to make some popcorn movies for people that don't want politics injected into their entertainment constantly? And it's really the studios that need to kind of take that capitalize on that market.
I would love to see a move away from the culture of cynicism around these industries, because that's the things that I love. There's a reason why I love sports movies, because they tend to be about overcoming something, which is that type of the desire to work hard at something, overcome challenges, and then accomplish it is not a cynical worldview.
I agree.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like the odd thing being that, like, even in a movie like that, like, you can watch a movie where they don't win, and that's not cynical. It's a movie about somebody working their hardest, coming up short, but then the lesson that's learned at the end is that the hard work that goes into it, that there's more to the story than just winning. That's not a cynical idea.
I agree, and I think that it's not the same thing, but there is something that kind of attitude that goes along with the idea that I've talked about of like looking for aspirational stuff and having having beautiful people be like in advertisements, and having like the idea that it's not cynical to have aspirational stories and have people that look the way that you want to look, like that kind of thing. I think is something that society misses, and I think that we should bring it back. So I agree with you.
I would love to see a focus on stories that don't need to go down the dark path, or doesn't, because they wonder. We just talked earlier about the nihilism of the current generations. Like, geez, I wonder where all of that nihilism comes from.
Stop building brutalist buildings too.
Yeah. Explain that. Give people a break. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
Brutalist buildings. They have a lot of this straight lines, things without windows. Really, just anything government building. Any government building that's a current government building, the style is brutalist. It's concrete. They're not pretty. Art Deco. Bring back Art Deco.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yes,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I looked a little bit further into this Christian studio called the Wonder Project, and a lot of their mission statements are incredibly difficult to decode, because it's like, we are making stories about values, and they won't, for the life of them, say what those values are. This says, the dream of the Wonder Project is to create a trusted brand that serves the faith and values audience globally with movies and TV shows they didn't know were possible. They said, with House of David being the first project under this new deal, we're setting the stage for a series of compelling, values-driven movies and TV shows.
It's already giving...
Values-driven. What does that mean?
It's already giving diversity-driven movies.
Like, we already have an abundance of movies and TV shows that are values-driven, but they're driven by the wrong values. So in order to counteract that, you need to state what your good values are, and not just say, like, our audience has values and we value that, and we really want to make stories about their values. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, and then in reference to Amazon, which is insane, they said, we're thrilled to be working with a company that understands and supports our mission and our audience in a groundbreaking way.
That means we're thrilled to be working with a company that has endless amounts of money.
And is willing to give us said money to make movies.
It doesn't mean anything about how Amazon supports their mission statement.
I like the idea.
No, actually, no, it does.
Does it?
So, yes, support
by
money.
By giving them the money.
That means supporting. Because when you're a band and you have a label and the label supports you, that means that they'll give you opportunities, they'll give you money, blah blah blah.
What are the values of Amazon?
I don't. This is now you're changing the subject. We're not talking about values anymore. We're talking about support.
To get you your packages in 2 days and have a CEO whose fiance dresses kind of like a call girl.
We have a $20 super chat from Not That John Stewart. Brett, think of how McDonald's building looked when we were kids. They're all boring gray commie blocks now.
They are. The joy has left the McDonald's building.
Yes.
That is absolutely true. I do like. I appreciate.
And Pizza Hut.
Yes. Oh yeah. You know, like I think I've told this story before. There are like Pizza Hut classics now. Have you seen that? That there's Pizza Hut classics with the salad bar.
Well, there's only one,
cups.
right?
No, I think there's two now.
Oh. Okay.
And I'm planning either this summer, probably to go on a road trip to the one in Illinois, to go to it, to experience it firsthand. It's going to be amazing. We got a second $20 one here from, can you read that? I can't read the name. It's cut
Steven
off.
Van Deelen, I guess. Cool Runnings is a great movie example of what Brett is talking about regarding overcoming hardship without winning in the end.
Yes. One of my favorite movies growing up was the movie Little Big League, which is about a kid who becomes the manager of the Minnesota Twins. Well, spoiler alert, Ken Griffey Jr. robs them of a home run in the last scene, and they lose. But in it...
robs them.
He does. Well, he robs them of a home run, and they lose the game. But you know what? He retires from managing, and his favorite player on the team ends up marrying his mom, who was a widower, and it's fantastic. It's great. There's a lot of movies like that. For instance, here, I'll give you an example of why that's necessarily bad. So in the movie Angels in the Outfield, for some reason, God is allowing angels to help the California Angels cheat.
Unconscionable.
for the whole season, but says, look, it's the playoffs now. You got to win on your own. That doesn't make any sense. In fact, there's a good idea. That's a movie Hollywood made that had a theme of God in it, Mary. The movie Angels in the Outfield, where this kid asks for the help of God to help them cheat. Based. Yeah. God, thank you for that. But he's like, hey, okay.
Is it a miracle or is it cheating? The lines are blurry.
We got you to the finals, but that's...
No, the other guys didn't pray, obviously.
it's the godlessness of the other team.
Okay,
really put them through.
Please just decode this for me. Like, tell me what this means. Our goal is to tell stories that restore faith in things worth believing in, and do this at scale.
It's trying to say family values without mentioning a God in particular.
Or family. Did it mention?
Or family. I mean,
maybe, yeah.
Things worth believing in. What are those things that are worth believing in?
It's the phrase family values is coded as Christian in America, and they don't want to say that because
I bet you in the first draft of this page it was there, and then some person's like, can we just scratch that one out?
Maybe, or the HR department was literally sitting on the person's shoulder as they were writing it, you know, like, and they're like, I know I'll get fired if I say the wrong things. But yeah, that's what I think that's what it is. It's they don't want to.
It's like, if you know, you know.
Yeah, because right now I think companies are trying to do two things right now. They're like, okay, the woke stuff and the extreme LGBT stuff is turning people off. So we need to not do that stuff. And so we want to have stuff that's going to bring back the religious family values people, but we don't want to say things that are going to scare off the urban liberals that aren't religious. You know, so they don't want it to say Christ or God or whatever, because that's going to scare off the women that live in Stamford, Connecticut. You know, that don't, you know, they're social, they consider themselves urban, they're wealthy people, but they don't want to be thought of as the woke, but at the same time they're not going to be happy with anyone thinking that they live in a double wide, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just it's great because like one of the things thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Somebody mentioned Little Giants. I hope you're not using Little Giants as an example of them not winning at the end, because they do, against all odds, end up beating the Cowboys in that movie. Sorry. These industries are so saturated for content now, right? I mean, supposedly they're going to be paring back this year, but from everything we've seen, hey, thank you. Listens to me when I do that. They're not hurting for space. They need to they seem to keep wanting to be adding extra content. Why wouldn't you branch out into an area where you haven't previously worked? They mentioned that one of the people involved in this is Jason Blum of Blumhouse Pictures. So he's one of the people backing the studio.
Interesting.
Like, so he's going to have, you know, the people who are truly business minded would want to be able to make movies that appeal to all, like, you know, cover different movies that can appeal to all different groups.
To values.
Yeah. So he's probably helping this, and he's probably part of that studio that's making the People's Joker. He's probably not, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, the good investors will get involved in projects that can make them money from all the values that they want to sell to the public. Mm-hmm. I don't know. All I'm saying is that
how this turns out remains to be seen.
Both the lady who wants you to make more movies about trans characters and the religious folk that want to make movies about Christianity both could do with a little bit of deftness in their storytelling. Is that so much to ask for? I don't feel like that's so much to ask for. Just a little bit of a light touch.
It is a lot to ask for, because that would mean hiring people based on their ability to tell stories, not based on the color of their skin or their identity.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.